Hillary Clinton laughed at John Kennedy, mocked his positions, and thought the crowd was hers, until Kennedy appeared calm and unshaken and delivered a response that no one in America expected. The microphone squealed briefly, then steadied. The crowd in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, had worked itself into a frenzy long before Hillary Clinton took the podium. Red, white, and blue signs waved in the humid air, and the electric buzz of anticipation pulsed through the warm evening at the state fairgrounds. Locals filled the seats, farmers in worn jeans, families with kids in patriotic tees, and young professionals clutching phones, all drawn to a high-profile political forum. Vendors sold cold drinks and pins, adding a festive touch to the charged atmosphere. Clinton adjusted the mic, flashed a confident smile, and leaned in. "You know," she said, stretching the words as cheers quieted, "some folks think Senator John Neely Kennedy is the people's champion." She paused, letting chuckles rise. Then she laughed, sharp and mocking. "I mean, his talk on cutting taxes and regulations, it's like a broken record from the bayou. Big promises, no results." The crowd erupted in laughter, clapping wildly, fueled by her biting jab. Clinton leaned back, savoring the moment, and waved dismissively. "The man thinks he's saving America with his folksy speeches, but he's just stalling progress." The quip landed hard, sarcastic and belittling. Phones shot up, cameras flashed, and the amusement swelled into a roar. But then a stir rippled near the stage. Heads turned. Murmurs grew. A chant started soft, but gaining force. "Kennedy. Kennedy. Kennedy." Almost unbelievably, John Neely Kennedy, in a simple suit, strode toward the stage unannounced and composed, as if heading to a town hall rather than a heated arena. The vibe shifted instantly. Half the crowd gasped, the other half looked stunned. Even Clinton's loyalists stared as the energy seemed to drain from the space. Clinton's smile flickered before she covered it with a chuckle. Kennedy reached the stage steps, nodded politely to security, and climbed up steadily. He didn't grab the mic forcefully. He just looked at Clinton, gave a slight nod, and waited. The silence was heavy. Clinton broke it first. "Well, look who's crashing the party," she said, feigning surprise. "Didn't know you were invited, Senator." Kennedy tilted his head, eyes steady. His voice, calm but firm, cut through. "I wasn't, but since you're talking about my work for Louisiana, I figured I'd hear it myself." Gasps swept the crowd. Phones angled higher. Reporters scrambled to reposition cameras. The forum was no longer routine. It felt historic. Clinton tried again. "Oh, perfect. The guy who's all talk on fiscal responsibility. Tell us, John, how's that working out?" "Not much to show, is there?" Kennedy didn't flinch. He leaned into the mic, voice even. "Hillary, the people of Louisiana can decide that. They know where we started and where we are. But I don't tear others down to feel better." The crowd stirred. Some cheered, some jeered, but all eyes stayed glued. Even Clinton's strongest supporters couldn't ignore the contrast, her sharp mockery versus his steady resolve. Kennedy continued unruffled. "Laugh at my policies if you want. That's politics. But when you mock the families who've gained from tax cuts, the workers with new jobs, you're not mocking me, you're mocking them." The words hit hard. Laughter faded. A woman in the front lowered her phone, her grin softening. A man with a Kennedy sticker glanced at his friend, unsure whether to cheer or stay quiet. Reporters' jaws dropped, sensing a moment that would echo for years. Clinton forced a laugh. "See, folks, this is his trick, folksy talk, that sounds nice but means nothing. Just words." Kennedy replied simply. Sometimes Hillary words rooted in truth outweigh sarcasm. The hush was palpable. Then a section of the crowd clapped, not Clinton's usual cheer, but genuine support for Kennedy. Cameras zoomed in. Social media lit up as clips spread like wildfire. But what came next would flip the night upside down. The crowd's shifting energy told the story better than words. The Baton Rouge air was thick, the heat from the gathering amplifying the tension. Locals had arrived early, toting folding chairs, kids in star-spangled shirts, vendors selling snacks. It was supposed to be a standard event. Cheers, sound bites, and stories to share. But Kennedy's arrival changed everything. The audience split Clinton's backers, chanting, to dominate Kennedy's unexpected allies, erupting in applause. A woman in a blue cap shouted, "He doesn't belong here. This is her stage." Her voice wavered, more anxious than bold. Beside her, a man filming snapped back, "If she's trashing him, why can't he respond?" His words drew nods from others watching quietly. Reporters huddled, fumbling cameras. One whispered, "This wasn't on the schedule. Nobody saw this coming." Her colleague replied, "Look at the crowd, they're hooked. This is bigger than politics." On stage, Clinton tried to hold the spotlight, pacing and gesturing broadly. But eyes drifted to Kennedy, standing with hands relaxed, face unreadable, like a chess player awaiting the next move. His calm contrasted sharply with her animation, signaling the difference between trying to control the room and already having it. Behind the stage, young adults buzzed. "I can't believe he's here," one said, clutching her phone. "My mom won't believe this. It's like two worlds colliding." Another showed his screen where clips trended. "It's blowing up online." Security looked tense, swapping quick words, unsure if Kennedy's appearance was planned. One muttered, "This wasn't cleared. If it escalates, it's on us." But Kennedy's calm eased fears. He wasn't shouting or flailing, just standing, letting the moment breathe. Clinton pointed at him. "See this, folks? The arrogance I've warned about. He thinks he can just walk in and take over." Boos and cheers clashed. Some yelled, "Go home." Others shouted, "Let him speak." The tension sharpened. Kennedy raised a hand slightly, not commanding, but noticeable. The noise softened. "This isn't about owning the stage," he said evenly. "It's about owning the truth. And that belongs to the people. Not me, not Hillary to you." The words rang steady. The fairgrounds quieted briefly. Even those against him paused. It was less a comeback, more a mirror forcing self-reflection. A man near the back holding his daughter whispered, "That's the Kennedy I know." His child clapped, mimicking the vibe. Reporters scrambled. One spoke urgently into her mic. "We're witnessing a rare clash between a former secretary and a senator." The crowds divided, but the energy's electric. Clinton paced faster, voice booming. "Don't fall for it. He sounds reasonable, but his policies stall progress higher, costs, weaker systems." Kennedy leaned in softer. "You can talk costs and systems, Hillary. But leadership is how you treat people, especially those not cheering you." Claps and shouts mixed. Some booed louder. But the shift was clear. The energy wasn't one-sided. The lights burned hot, highlighting Clinton's gestures. But eyes fixed on Kennedy, hands clasped, face steady. His presence slowed the pace. Clinton's voice rolled with jabs. Kennedy's calm drew focus. Two women whispered. "Didn't think he'd show," one said. The other replied, "Clinton didn't either. She's rattled." And she was. Clinton masked it with flair, tossing another quip. "Well, John, explain why your trade policies weaken us, why allies doubt us." Kennedy, unfazed, leaned to the mic like a teacher. "I've faced mockery before. But as a senator, it's not about laughs. It's about protecting Louisiana, strengthening our economy, upholding values." Murmurs spread. Some clapped, Others crossed arms. Clinton jumped in. Values. You've let opportunities slip, made us look unsteady. Kennedy's faint smile wasn't mocking, but tired. If you're still critiquing my work, maybe it's not as unsteady as you say. The retort landed cleanly. Laughter, gasps, and cheers layered. Reporters scribbled knowing it was headline gold. A camera tech whispered, "That's the viral clip." Kennedy faced the crowd, voice weightier. "I didn't come to fight. I came because someone mocked efforts. Louisianans fought for families, keeping more pay businesses growing. Laugh at me, but not them." Silence fell, then applause broke from corners. Clinton chuckled theatrically, but it lacked swagger. A man shouted, "Let him talk." Others joined chants clashing. Kennedy raised a hand, calming the din. "This isn't my stage, but leadership doesn't wait for invites. Truth matters more than cheers." The crowd leaned in. Even booing folks stayed. His delivery cut through in ways Clinton's sharpness couldn't. Clinton fired back. "Truth, you dodge reforms and blur issues, then act noble." Kennedy nodded, expecting it. "No one's perfect. But when I err, I own it. When we progress, it's because Louisianans demand better." Cheers grew louder. The air buzzed. Social feeds exploded. Kennedy glanced at Clinton, smile firm. "Keep mocking Hillary." But Louisianans know service over sarcasm. The roar drowned Clinton's next words. Her pacing quickened gestures wilder, but the crowd wasn't hers alone. Kennedy's steadiness was reshaping the night, setting the stage for a deeper shift. The Baton Rouge fairgrounds pulsed with a restless, almost electric energy, the crowd caught in a tug-of-war between Hillary Clinton's sharp-witted jabs and John Neely Kennedy's unshakable calm. The once unified sea of laughter and waving signs had fractured into a mix of cheers, boos, and hushed murmurs as the audience leaned forward, no longer just waiting for Clinton's next biting quip, but riveted by how Kennedy would respond. Clinton paced the stage with deliberate strides, tossing out insults like a seasoned debater, fighting to hold a wavering crowd, her voice booming with practiced authority, each word designed to rally her supporters and keep the spotlight firmly on her. Kennedy, in stark contrast, stood like a rooted oak, his silence carrying a weight that seemed to quiet the noise around him, drawing eyes and ears without demanding them. The dynamic had shifted palpably. People weren't just watching a performance, they were witnessing a clash of two vastly different approaches, and Kennedy's steady presence was beginning to command the room. Clinton stopped, mid-stride, leaned heavily into the microphone, and pointed directly at him, her finger slicing through the humid air for emphasis. "Tell us, John, why your policies have left families across Louisiana struggling with higher costs. Energy, groceries, health care, you name it. Explain why your so-called reforms haven't delivered the results you promised. Go on, Senator, tell these good folks right here tonight." Her tone dripped with sarcasm, inviting the crowd to join her in the mockery, and pockets of laughter rippled through the fairgrounds, though noticeably thinner and less confident than her earlier barbs had inspired. Kennedy stepped a fraction closer to the shared microphone, deliberately lowering his voice, instead of raising it to compete, a subtle move that forced the audience to hush and strain to catch every word, amplifying their focus. "Hillary. Let's talk about that openly, because I've sat with families from Baton Rouge to Bossier City, from small towns like Minden to coastal communities like Grand Isle folks, who were crushed by heavy taxes and suffocating regulations long before we pushed for meaningful relief. I've seen parents in Houma light up with relief when new energy jobs came back online, letting them pay their bills without the constant fear of falling behind. Were there challenges along the way? Of course, no policy is ever flawless, and anyone who says otherwise isn't being honest. But for so many Louisianans, it wasn't a failure. It was a lifeline to a better future, a chance to build something stable. The crowd stirred noticeably, some nodding thoughtfully in agreement, others remaining skeptical, but undeniably attentive, their ears tuned to his grounded, relatable words that carried the weight of real experience. Clinton scoffed loudly, waving her hand dismissively as if swatting away an insignificant point. Lifeline. Please, Senator. Your approach has been nothing short of a disaster, leaving us with higher prices across the board and fewer choices for working families. Everyone knows it. Everyone. Kennedy didn't blink or show the slightest hint of being rattled. His response flowed naturally, rooted in specifics that felt personal and authentic to those listening. Everyone. That's not what I hear from the port workers in New Orleans, the farmers in Ruston, or the small business owners in Slidell, who've told me directly how tax cuts and less red tape gave them room to breathe, to grow, to hire. Sometimes the truth isn't the loudest voice in the room, but it's the one that lasts, the one that matters to the people living it every single day. The crowd erupted in a complex mix of cheers and shouts, the divide between supporters sharpening, yet the laughter that had once fueled Clinton's attacks now felt thin, almost hesitant in parts, as if the audience was rethinking their initial reactions. Two men standing side by side in the middle rows whispered heatedly to each other, their voices low but intense. One grumbled under his breath, "He's spinning it. She's right about those costs hitting us hard where it hurts." The other shot back quickly, "Maybe, for some, but my cousin's got steady work now because of those energy policies Kennedy pushed. That's not nothing, it's real for us." Their back and forth mirrored the broader tension rippling through the fairgrounds, as Kennedy's words sparked immediate, passionate conversations that were already spilling beyond the venue, with phones buzzing as short clips of the exchange went viral on social media platforms. Clinton, acutely sensing the crowd's shifting mood, raised her voice even sharper, her tone now tinged with a hint of anger and urgency. "Look at him, folks, standing there all calm and wise, acting like he's above it all. But he doesn't truly understand what real Americans go through every single day he's been in that Senate bubble in Washington for far too long, preaching from a distance while families struggle." Kennedy's gaze remained steady, completely unflustered as he leaned into the microphone with a quiet confidence. "Hillary, I didn't grow up in any kind of bubble. I came up through hard work, knowing the struggles of folks just like those here tonight. People who get up before dawn, work long hours, and pray their kids get a better shot at life. In the Senate, I carry those stories with me every day, and that's who I fight for. Not power, not ego, but the people of Louisiana." The line landed like a quiet thunderclap, resonating deeply with the audience, and applause swelled from unexpected corners, even from some who had clapped enthusiastically for Clinton earlier in the evening. She tried to shake off the momentum shift, turning to her supporters with a dramatic flourish of her hands. "Don't fall for it, everyone. It's all charm, folksy, polished talk that sounds nice, but delivers absolutely nothing. He's weakened our standing, left us exposed on the world stage with his outdated views." Kennedy's tone tightened just a fraction, still composed, but with a hint of steel beneath the calm. "You talk about being exposed, Hillary. But let me ask you, what's truly weaker? Building coalitions with allies to strengthen Louisiana and America, or sowing division for headlines and applause? I've seen unity rebuild communities here after hurricanes, families coming together to recover, and I've seen division tear those same communities apart. We're stronger when we pull together, not when we pull each other down." The words drew a thunderous round of claps, even from sections of the crowd that had been openly hostile earlier. The contrast now stark. Clinton's jabs were losing their bite, while Kennedy's responses grew heavier with meaning and authenticity. From the press section, a correspondent muttered urgently to her producer through her earpiece, "He's not just answering her attacks. He's taking the entire stage with his calm." Clinton's fighting hard, but Kennedy's redefining the narrative in front of our eyes. A young woman near the back of the crowd held her phone high, whispering excitedly to her friend, "This is blowing up online right now. People are absolutely stunned." On her screen, social media feeds exploded with clips of Kennedy's measured, heartfelt responses. Hashtags like #KennedyCalm and #LouisianaStrong. Trending within minutes, racking up thousands of views and shares. Clinton crossed her arms tightly, shaking her head in exaggerated disbelief to rally her base. "He's no saint, folks. Don't be fooled. His record is weak. Higher costs, broken promises. You name it, he's part of the problem." Kennedy let her finish without interruption, allowing the pause to hang meaningfully, before responding in a softer, almost reflective tone that drew the audience in further. "I fight for progress, not perfection, Hillary. If that's what you call weak, then maybe we've forgotten what real strength looks like in action, showing up for people day in and day out." The applause that followed wasn't scattered anymore. It rolled through the fairgrounds with power drowning out the scattered boos and creating a wave of sound that seemed to lift the entire energy of the evening. Kennedy didn't raise his hand to quiet the crowd this time. He let the cheers echo, allowing the moment to breathe and settle naturally, filling the space with a sense of shared purpose. Clinton's laughter faltered noticeably, her pacing growing more frantic, her voice louder but less controlled, as if she could sense the tide slipping away. Her attacks, once sharp and commanding, now only served to highlight Kennedy's stillness, which was fast becoming the defining story of the night. But Kennedy wasn't content to merely deflect her criticisms. He was ready to shift from defense to deep connection, drawing the crowd in with stories that hit close to home and resonated on a human level. As the audience braced for another round of verbal sparring, expecting more back-and-forth barbs, Kennedy changed the rhythm entirely, transforming the stage into something more intimate. He leaned into the microphone, his tone warming almost as if he were sharing a story over coffee with a neighbor, rather than addressing a charged crowd. "In my time as senator, I've traveled the back roads of Louisiana towns like Natchitoches, Opelousas, places like Franklin where folks don't care about Washington's drama or who gets the loudest applause. I've sat with shrimpers in Grand Isle who were worried about regulations choking their family businesses, teachers in Monroe, stretching paper-thin budgets to educate our kids, veterans in Alexandria, searching for work after serving our country with honor. Those stories aren't punchlines to be mocked. They're the heartbeat of what drives me every single day in the Senate." The words sliced through the lingering noise like a gentle but insistent current, and even the most vocal hecklers grew quieter, not necessarily because they agreed with his politics, but because the weight of those lived experiences was impossible to dismiss outright. Clinton attempted to interrupt, chuckling dismissively. "Here's the preacher act again. Nice tales, Senator, but where are the real solutions?" But her timing felt off her jibe, sounding forced and out of step, while Kennedy's sincerity pulled the room's focus toward him. A couple in the crowd standing near the middle whispered to each other, their voices barely audible over the hum. "He gets it," one said softly. "He's talking about real people, not just numbers." The other nodded, adding, "You don't have to agree with every policy to see he cares about us." Kennedy pressed on his voice steady but vivid painting pictures that brought abstract policies to life. "When you mock tax cuts or deregulation, You're not just mocking me, you're mocking the people who've gained from them. Small businesses in Slidell that are hiring more workers because they're not buried in paperwork. Families in Covington who are keeping more of their hard-earned paychecks to put toward their kids' futures. That's not a joke or something to laugh off. That's the heart of America, and it's why I fight every day for policies that lift people up. Cheers surged from the left side of the stage, louder and broader than before, pulling in voices from all corners, even those who had been skeptical or neutral at the start. Clinton countered quickly, her voice cutting in. He's dodging with stories, not facts. Don't be swayed by the charm. Kennedy replied without hesitation, his tone calm but firm. Facts live in people's lives. Hillary, not just in speeches or headlines. Truth matters, even if it's quiet and doesn't come with a spotlight. The pause that followed felt heavy, charged with a moment of collective reflection across the fairgrounds. A young reporter in the press section typed frantically on her laptop, muttering under her breath. He's completely flipping this night. He's not fighting her. He's connecting with the crowd in a way she can't match. Online, the reaction was already exploding. Live stream clips captured Kennedy's pivot, from sparring to sharing, spreading faster than Clinton's initial quips ever could, with comments flooding in, praising his focus on people over politics. One trending post read, "This is the Kennedy people forget, not just a politician, but an advocate who puts Louisiana first." Another declared, "He's dismantling her mockery without raising his voice. That's real strength." Back at the stage, Kennedy shifted again, turning his words more directly toward the issues at the heart of the crowd's frustrations, weaving in values that transcended partisan lines. Politics isn't about winning debates or landing the cleverest line, it's about solving real problems that affect real lives. And yes, I've made mistakes along the way. Every leader worth their salt has. But I've never mocked the people I serve or belittled their struggles, because when you represent this state, you carry their stories with you, whether you want to or not, and you fight for them every single day. For the first time that evening, even some of Clinton's most loyal supporters hesitated in their responses. They weren't clapping for him, but they weren't heckling either, caught in a moment of quiet reflection. A woman in a denim jacket muttered to her friend nearby, "I still don't agree with him on everything, but damn, he knows how to connect without tearing anybody down." Clinton stomped forward, trying to seize back control of the narrative. "He wants you all to think he's a saint. He's not. He's given us weakness, division, and empty promises." Kennedy let her finish, then replied softly, but with conviction, "I'm no Saint Hillary, just a man trying to do right by my state. I own my choices, and I fight for Louisiana's future. That's not weakness, that's responsibility in action." The roar from the crowd was thunderous now, shifting the night's tide decisively. Kennedy's gaze swept across the audience, speaking to each person as if they were the only one in the room. Ask yourselves this: do you want leadership that mocks and divides, or leadership that listens and unites? Do you want jokes at others' expense, or results that lift communities up? That choice isn't mine. It's yours, and it's what makes this country great. The words hung in the air, powerful and unshakable. The crowd's cheers outweighing the boos, showing that Kennedy's stories had turned the night, setting the stage for an even deeper, more resonant impact to come. The Baton Rouge Fairgrounds had transformed into a crucible of raw emotion, the air thick with the clash of cheers, boos, and the relentless hum of anticipation. The crowd, once swept up in Clinton's biting mockery, now found itself split, teetering between her fiery rhetoric and Kennedy's steady, heartfelt narratives. The stage lights burned brighter as the night deepened, casting stark contrasts between Clinton's animated pacing and Kennedy's rooted calm, a visual that mirrored the growing divide in the audience's reactions. Phones glowed across the venue, capturing every moment, as the confrontation spilled beyond the fairgrounds, igniting a firestorm online. Clinton, sensing the crowd's shifting allegiance, doubled down her voice, sharp and commanding, as she leaned into the microphone. "Don't be fooled, folks," she declared, her tone laced with urgency. "Senator Kennedy wants you to think his folksy charm equals results. But look at the record's stagnant wages, crumbling infrastructure, and a state left vulnerable. That's what he's given you." Her words drew cheers from her loyalists, but the applause felt less unified, punctuated by murmurs and hesitant glances from others, now swayed by Kennedy's earlier stories. He didn't interrupt, letting her words hang, before stepping forward, his voice calm, but carrying a quiet force. "Hillary, you can point to challenges, and there are always challenges, but let's talk about what's real for Louisiana. The tax cuts that let families keep more of their earnings, the jobs in our energy sector that came back because we fought red tape, the flood protections we've funded to shield our communities. Those aren't just promises, they're progress built by and for the people here." The crowd stirred, a wave of applause rising from one side, while others remained silent, weighing his words against Clinton's critiques. The energy was no longer hers alone. Kennedy's grounded sincerity had cracked her hold, turning the forum into a battleground of ideas and emotions. Clinton, undeterred, fired back with a smirk. "Progress. Senator, you're rewriting history. Your policies have left Louisiana lagging, businesses struggling, schools underfunded. You talk a big game, but where's the delivery?" Her supporters cheered, waving signs, but the fervor seemed forced, overshadowed by the growing curiosity about Kennedy's next move. He leaned into the mic, his tone steady, almost conversational, drawing the crowd in. "I've walked the streets of Lake Charles after hurricanes, sat with teachers in Baton Rouge, fighting for their classrooms, listened to small business owners in Covington who needed a break from bureaucracy. Progress isn't always a headline. It's in the lives of people who can now afford to send their kids to college or rebuild their homes. That's what I fight for." The applause swelled louder and more sustained, pulling in voices from unexpected corners. Even those who'd arrived skeptical couldn't ignore the authenticity in his words, which painted vivid pictures of real struggles and triumphs. A woman in the front row whispered to her husband, "He's talking about us, not just himself." Her husband nodded, eyes fixed on the stage. "Yeah, you can feel he's been there." The confrontation's impact was no longer confined to the fairgrounds. Outside, the digital world was ablaze. Clips of Kennedy's responses, his calm delivery, his focus on people raced across social media, amassing thousands of views in minutes. Hashtags like #Kennedy, Connects, and Louisiana. Reels surged with users posting, "This is leadership, talking about us not just winning a fight. And he's not yelling, but he's winning hearts." In a New Orleans diner, patrons huddled around a TV screen showing live coverage, one saying, "I didn't expect this from Kennedy, he's making her look small." Across the country, in a Chicago apartment, college students replayed clips, one commenting, "He's not just defending himself, he's reminding us what matters." The viral spread amplified the moment, turning a local event into a national conversation. Back at the fairgrounds, attendees checked their phones, whispering about trending posts. A young man shouted, "It's everywhere. My sister in Texas just saw it." The realization that this was bigger than Baton Rouge electrified the crowd further. Their reactions feeding into the online frenzy. Clinton, aware of the digital storm, tried to pivot, her voice rising. "This is what he does, tells stories to dodge accountability. But Louisiana deserves better than anecdotes. You need action, not nostalgia. Her words rallied some cheers, but the crowd's energy was fractured, no longer fully hers. Kennedy didn't take the bait. Instead, he turned to the audience, his voice steady, but infused with conviction. Accountability. That's showing up for the people who sent you to serve. It's fighting for the shrimper in Duloc, who's feeding his family because we cut regulations. It's standing with the nurse in Shreveport who can afford her mortgage thanks to tax relief. That's the work, and I'll keep doing it, no matter how many laugh. The cheers that followed were deafening, rolling across the fairgrounds like a wave, drowning out Clinton's attempts to interject. Even her staunchest supporters seemed quieter, their signs lowered as Kennedy's words landed with undeniable weight. A group of college students near the back exchanged looks, one saying, "He's not playing her game, he's changing it." Another nodded, "This is bigger than politics now." Reporters scrambled in the press pit, their voices urgent. One journalist spoke into her mic, "We're watching history unfold. Kennedy's turning a roast into a referendum on leadership." Another typed furiously, muttering, "His calm is the story. It's outshining her noise." The contrast was inescapable. Clinton's attacks, once sharp and commanding, now felt repetitive, while Kennedy's focus on real people, farmers, workers, families, gave his words a resonance that lingered. Security guards, still tense from the unexpected showdown, exchanged glances, one whispering, "This could have been chaos, but he's keeping it steady." The crowd's split was evident. Clinton's supporters chanting to reclaim the moment, Kennedy's allies clapping with growing fervor. But the balance was tipping. A man in a work jacket shouted, "Let him speak," prompting a ripple of agreement even from neutrals. A woman nearby, holding her daughter's hand, told a reporter, "I didn't come for him, but he's making sense. He's not just talking at us, he's talking for us." Kennedy seized the moment, his voice rising slightly, but never shouting, weaving more stories that grounded his point. "I've met folks in Thibodaux who rebuilt after floods because we secured funding, not promises. I've talked to welders in Morgan City who have jobs because we protected our energy industry. That's not nostalgia. It's results built by people who don't give up." The crowd roared the sound, now tilting decisively in his favor. Clinton tried to cut in. "He's cherry-picking stories, not facts." But Kennedy countered, "Facts are in the lives of these people, Hillary. You can't laugh away their reality." The pause was electric, the crowd hanging on his words. Social media erupted further with one viral post reading, "Kennedy's not just fighting, he's teaching us what leadership looks like." Another clip of him saying, "Truth isn't always loud, but it lasts," hit 1 million views, sparking debates in homes from California to Maine. Clinton, visibly frustrated, slammed the podium lightly. "Don't let him fool you. He's all talk, no substance. His policies have divided us, weakened us." Kennedy's response was measured. "I'm not here to divide Hillary. I'm here to lift up the people who've been ignored, to fight for their future, not just my own." The applause was overwhelming, even some of Clinton's fans pausing their boos softer. A reporter whispered, "He's flipped the script, she's losing the room." The night had become more than a debate. It was a showcase of Kennedy's ability to connect, turning mockery into a platform for unity. He looked out at the crowd, his voice steady. "This isn't about me. It's about you, your families, your communities. You decide what leadership means." The cheers signaled a shift, setting the stage for a final act that would cement the night's impact. The Baton Rouge Fairgrounds, now a cauldron of shifting emotions, hummed with an energy that transcended the earlier chaos of cheers and boos. The crowd, once wholly captivated by Clinton's sharp mockery, had been pulled into Kennedy's orbit, his calm resolve and heartfelt stories reshaping the night into something far more profound than a mere political spat. The stage lights, harsh against the Louisiana twilight, illuminated the stark contrast between Clinton's restless pacing and Kennedy's steady presence, a visual that etched itself into the minds of those present. Social media was ablaze, clips of Kennedy's responses, his focus on real people, his refusal to stoop to insults spreading like wildfire, turning the local event into a national moment. Clinton, sensing the tide had turned, gripped the podium, her voice rising with a mix of defiance and desperation. "Folks, don't be swayed by this act," she declared, her tone sharp but fraying. Senator Kennedy spins tales to dodge the truth. His policies have left Louisiana weaker families' struggling futures uncertain. Her supporters rallied with cheers, but the sound lacked the earlier fire, drowned by murmurs from a crowd now wrestling with Kennedy's words. He didn't interrupt, letting her accusations linger before stepping to the mic, his voice steady, almost gentle. "Hillary, you can list every challenge, but the truth lies in the lives we touch. I've fought for tax relief that lets families keep more, for jobs that rebuild communities, for protections that shield our coast. That's not weakness, that's work for and by the people." The applause that followed was thunderous, rolling across the fairgrounds, pulling in voices from every corner, even those who'd arrived as skeptics. Clinton tried one last jab. Her smirk strained. "Work, Senator. Your work's left us divided, stuck in the past. Louisiana deserves better than your empty promises." Kennedy's eyes met the crowd. Not her, his tone unwavering. "Division comes from tearing people down, not lifting them up. I've seen Louisiana rise after storms, families rebuild, businesses grow, because we work together, not against each other." The crowd roared the sound, now undeniably his, even Clinton's, loyalists, pausing their signs lowered. A man in the front row whispered to his wife, "He's not fighting her. He's fighting for us." She nodded. "That's why it hits different." Kennedy seized the moment, his voice rising with conviction, but never shouting. "This isn't about me or any one person. It's about the shrimper in Dulac, the teacher in Monroe, the veteran in Alexandria. Their stories aren't for laughs. They're why we serve. Leadership means carrying those stories, owning the mistakes, and pushing for better every single day." The cheers swelled, a wave of unity cutting through the earlier divide. Online, the moment exploded further. Clips of Kennedy saying, "Truth isn't always loud, but it lasts," hit millions of views, with posts declaring, "This is what leadership looks like, calm, real, for the people." In a Denver coffee shop, patrons debated over laptops, one saying, "He's not just winning a debate, he's reminding us what matters." Back at the fairgrounds, a young woman showed her phone to her friend. "My cousin in Florida says this is everywhere." The viral surge amplified the stakes, making the night a cultural touchstone. Kennedy, sensing the crowd's shift, leaned in for his final words. "Leadership isn't about who shouts loudest or mocks best. It's about listening, uniting, and delivering for those who trust you. You decide what that looks like, not me, not anyone else. That's the power of this country." The applause was deafening, a testament to his ability to turn mockery into a call for unity. Clinton's final attempts to reclaim the stage fell flat, her voice drowned by the crowd's response to Kennedy's vision. The lesson was clear, radiating beyond politics to life itself. Kennedy's calm under fire, his focus on people over ego, showed that true strength lies in lifting others up, not tearing them down. It's a lesson for workplaces, schools, families when faced with mockery or conflict. Respond with truth and dignity, not noise. A father in the crowd told his son, "See how he didn't yell back. That's how you stand tall." The boy nodded. So staying calm is strength. His father smiled. Exactly. This wasn't just about a senator or a stage, it was about choosing composure over chaos, service over self. A reminder that leadership at its core is about building a better future together.